Hi, in this video, we'll see how to create a REST API using Node.js and Express.js. I will use MVC Architecture to create the application. To start the application, I will use npm init-y command, which will create a package.json file with default properties and values. If you want to assign your own values to the properties of package.json file, then you can use npm init and you can skip the flag -y. Now we can see package.json file is created with default properties and values. I will use index.js as my entry point of the application, so I will create the file index.js. To start the application, I need few libraries, so I will install them with the help of npm -i. I is short for install. I will install Express, Mongoose, NodeMon. Now we can see required packages are added in dependencies of package.json file, and package-log.json file is created along with node modules folder. Let's import Express. When we call Express as a function, it will return an object containing multiple useful functions such as get, post, listen, etc. I will use listen to run the application in a particular port. First parameter of the listen method is a port number in which we want to start the application. I will add port number in environment variables. For that, I am creating .env file. I will assign 5000 to the variable port. Now to access the port, I will use process.env and I will assign the port to listen method. Second parameter of the listen is an optional one, which is a function. It will be executed when application is started in a port. Now to start the application, I will assign nodemon index.js to start command in package.json file. In latest versions of Node, if you want to access environment variables from .env file, we can use a flag -env file to which we need to assign the environment variable file. We can execute start command with the help of npm. Now we can see app is running in port 5000. Now if we check in the browser, we will see cannot get, which means for the base path, there is no request handler which can provide a valid response. Now I will assign a request handler to the base path with the help of app.get method. We can see application is restarted when changes are detected with the help of nodemon. Now the response is valid as we assigned the request handler to base path. Now to start the MVC architecture, I will create folders for model, view and controller. But in REST API, we don't have a view file. The response of API itself is view. So I will create model, controller and router folder. Before creating a model, I will connect to MongoDB with the help of mongoose.connect by passing the connection string. I have a local setup of MongoDB which is running in port 27017. So I will connect to MongoDB by adding the connection string to environment variables. I want to create a database books, so we'll assign to the connection string. Now we can connect to the MongoDB with the help of mongoose.connect, to which we need to pass connection string. Connect method will return a promise. So when application is connected to MongoDB, then block will get executed. If something went wrong, catch block will get executed. I don't want to run the application if it is not connected to MongoDB. So I'm adding app.listen inside then block. Application is running successfully, which means it is connected to MongoDB. Now I will create a user model. So I'll create a file user.js. To create a model, first we need to create a schema. We can import schema from the Mongoose. I will create a user schema to which I will pass the object and required properties such as username, password and email. I am making username and email as required and unique and password as required. We can create a model with the help of schema. Now I will start creating CRUD operations. I will start with post request. For that I am creating user controller file. I will start creating a post request handler. For that I will import user model. I will create a request handler to create a user which is a post request. I will use try and catch block. So if something goes wrong, catch block will return a valid response. To the post request, data will be assigned in payload which we can access through body. To create a user from payload, I will use create method from user model. I will send the created user data as a response with status code 201. If something goes wrong, catch block will get executed. I will send a message with 500 status code. I will export create user method so that I can access in a router file. I will create a user router file in which I will create an API to access the post request. I will import express and call router method which contains multiple methods like get, post, put, etc. Let's create post API to the user and assign create user method as a request handler. Add the user router to user path in index.js file. To get the payload from post request as a JSON data, we need to use a middleware called express.json. Now let's check post request with the help of Postman. I'm calling a post request for user path and adding a payload in the body. Let's call the API. Now we got the response with the given data along with an ID. Let's test again with some other data. We can see the James record also. Now we'll create a request handler for the get API which will get all the records of the user. For that I am creating a method called getAllUsers. To get all records, I will use find method of user model. Let's create an API for getAllUsers request handler. If we check in the Postman, we can see all the records of user. Now I will create a request handler to get a user by ID. I will use request params to get the ID. To get a user by ID, we can use find by ID method. I will send user data as a response. Let's create an API for get user by ID request handler. We can add params to the path with the help of colon. Now if we check in the Postman, we can see John record based on the ID. Let's create a request handler to update a user by ID. I will access ID from the request.params and body from the request. To update the user data by ID and with the given payload, we can use find by ID and update method from the user model. To receive the updated data, instead of old data, we can use new. Now let's create an API for request handler update user by ID. Now if we change the data of James, we will get the updated response. I have changed the password to James11. Now you can see James password is updated and it is updated in MongoDB too. Finally, let's create a request handler to delete user by ID. Get the ID by using request.params. We can use find by ID and delete to delete a user by ID. Let's create an API for the request handler delete user by ID. Now if we check in the Postman, James user is deleted successfully. Record is deleted in MongoDB also. So that's it for today. Thank you.